I've tried all sorts of crazy shit making videos. I've used AI, I've drawn pictures to make animations, I've thrown in a ton of special effects. I've seriously done it all, and my subscribers just won't go up. Forget subscribers, I'm not even getting any views. I only do long-form videos, not shorts, and the production time takes forever and a day. It's exhausting. I mean, I keep doing it because making videos is fun, but you need an audience to get hyped and keep the creative juices flowing, right? So I thought, you know what? The algorithm is a total mess anyway, and my channel feels cursed. So I'm just gonna do what I'm good at. And what am I good at? Telling it like it is. So I made a new channel and I'm making new videos. That's the deal. If you think this video is entertaining, smash that like button for me, you guys. All right, so today's topic, Christianity. And what's the key takeaway for today? Politics wants religion. This is the absolute core of our History of Christianity series. Just to be clear, this broadcast is not about bashing on Christianity or anything like that. You all get it, right? The reason I chose Christianity for my first broadcast, the first episode of World History, is because there are just so many misunderstandings about this religion. Isn't Protestantism just Christianity? Christianity refers only to Protestantism, so why do you lump Catholics, the Orthodox Church, and Protestants together and call it all Christianity? There's just so much confusion, I felt like I needed to clear things up before we go any further. And here's the most important part. You have to understand the history of Christianity to understand modern world history and international politics. I'm not holding anything back today. We're going to break it all down. To understand the history of Christianity, what do you need to know? The Bible, obviously. You gotta understand the story of humanity as the Bible tells it. Why? Because whether you believe the Bible or not, if you want to understand Christian history, you need to know the history it lays out. Most anthropologists say all of humanity probably originated in Africa. But since today is about Christian history, we're going to set that aside for now and dive in. In the beginning, God created the first humans, Adam and Eve. After God created the heavens and the earth, he looked around and thought the planet looked a little boring. So he decided to grow something and made Adam and Eve. But man, these two just wouldn't listen. God specifically told them not to eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge, but they listened to that damn snake and ate it anyway. The moment they did, they got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, which was basically a fully loaded penthouse suite. So what did Adam and Eve do after getting thrown out of their penthouse-level Garden of Eden? They had kids, obviously. Adam and Eve had kids, their kids had kids, and generations followed, and the Earth's population started to grow. But Adam and Eve's descendants were just as bad at listening to God. Just like their ancestors who disobeyed God and ate the apple, these guys wouldn't listen for shit. God watched them putting up with it until he finally had enough. These little shits are a lost cause. Time to format the human race. And then he tells them, since you won't fucking listen, I'm sending a flood. And what was that? It's the one and only Noah's Ark, that's what. God tells Noah to gather everyone in the neighborhood and get them on the ark. He tells them to warn them. If you don't, humanity is getting a hard reset. A flood is coming. But do the neighbors listen? When Noah tells them to get on the ark, they're like, that guy's nuts. There isn't a drop of rain in the sky, and he's building an ark and talking bullshit about God sending a flood. So they just ignore him. In the end, only Noah's family and pairs of every animal, like a buy one get one free deal, get on the ark and survive the Great Flood. Time passes, and the 10th generation descendant of this dude Noah is none other than Abraham, a name even people who don't go to church have probably heard. Abraham also had a shitload of kids. His descendants were super fertile, like they didn't have to worry about a declining birth rate. Starting with Grandpa Abraham, his descendants began to adopt a new faith. We, the descendants of Abraham, are the only people chosen by the one true God, Yahweh, from all of humanity. We are so grateful for being chosen. We are the best. They live by this belief. And what is it? This is the very beginning of Judaism, my friends. That's why Abraham is known as the father of the Jewish people. Abraham had a son named Isaac, and Isaac's son was Jacob. Jacob had kids too, of course. But this guy, Jacob, he was the problem. Polygamy was a thing back then, right? But Jacob had zero wisdom in managing his family life. If he had a fight with his wife, he should have been smart about it. Maybe buy her a designer bag, take her out to dinner, go on a trip. But he had none of that. He had a first wife and a second wife, and the problem was he doted on his second wife like crazy. And who was the son of this second wife? That's right, it's Joseph. You've heard that name a million times. If you know a Christian family, chances are you've met a kid named Joseph. This is that Joseph. The problem, like I said, was that Jacob adored his second wife while treating his first wife and her children like dirt. So they were pissed. The first wife was pissed, and Joseph's half-brothers were seriously pissed. So what'd they do? They sold Joseph to slave traders. A totally dysfunctional family, right? So these slave traders buy Joseph, and look here, guys, look at this rope tied around his ankle. Those goddamn bastards. And look at this asshole counting money. Anyway, they sell Joseph into slavery, and they sell him in Egypt. To be precise, Joseph was sold to slave traders who then sold him in Egypt. So Joseph gets hauled off to Egypt as a slave. But as you might have seen in the picture, the dude was ripped. He was handsome as hell, and he had a great personality. He was basically the perfect son-in-law that every parent dreams of. So, even though he was sold as a slave, which should have been the end of his life, he could have been stuck carrying heavy loads and doing chores until he died. Joseph was different because he was handsome, had a great personality, and had that main character plot armor from God. He caught the eye of Pharaoh's captain of the guard and became the overseer of his entire household. Sold as a slave, and he lands a job running the house of the king's captain of the guard. But like I said, Joseph was the whole package. Ripped, handsome, great personality. So the captain's wife tries to seduce him. But who is Joseph? He's our main character with plot armor. If he falls for that, the whole story falls apart, right? So, of course, he shuts her down. Ma'am, please don't do this. You can't do this to me. He pushes her away. And what happens? The captain's wife gets pissed and lies to her husband, Joseph tried to rape me. I was so scared. You need to mess him up. So, Joseph gets framed and thrown in prison. He was doomed to rot in jail for the rest of his life. Back then, a crime like sexual assault meant you'd either get your head cut off or spend your entire life in prison doing hard labor. But here comes the plot twist. He gets out of prison. How? The king of Egypt, the pharaoh, has a seriously fucked up dream. A dream so bizarre it made him think, is my kingdom about to collapse? It was the dream of a lifetime. So Pharaoh orders his men to find someone who can interpret it. And as it turns out, Joseph had already made a name for himself inside the prison for being an amazing dream interpreter. The rumor spread from the inmates to the guards and eventually all the way to the palace. So they pull Joseph out of prison and bring him before Pharaoh. This is Joseph. He gives Pharaoh a killer dream interpretation. All the officials around him are looking at him sideways, thinking, who the hell is this guy? And this pug just got out of jail. But Joseph doesn't give a damn and nails the interpretation. The interpretation was so good. Pharaoh's blown away and goes, Joseph, I like you. Stay by my side and keep interpreting my dreams. You're awesome. And just like that, he makes Joseph, who was dragged to Egypt as a slave, the prime minister of Egypt. This is what I call the Joseph hustle. A slave becomes the prime minister of Egypt overnight just by being good at interpreting dreams. This painting shows Joseph's funeral, and since he died as the prime minister of Egypt, his funeral was done in the Egyptian style. Anyway, now that Joseph was the PM, what do you think happened? Before, Jews were treated like garbage in Egypt. Why? Because Egypt was a polytheistic society, run on the logic of Pharaoh equals God. They couldn't stand the Jews who insisted on worshiping only one God, Yahweh. The vibe was, how dare you worship only one God? Not in Egypt. But now, with Joseph, a Jew, as the prime minister, the treatment of the Jewish people naturally had to get a whole lot better. But the Jewish people were having a lot of babies. The Bible says the Hebrew women were super fertile and having kids left and right. So who were the Hebrews? The term comes from the idea of one who crossed over the river Euphrates, like Abraham. It was basically another name for the Jewish people at the time. What does it mean when a specific ethnic group starts multiplying like that? I've mentioned this before. The Chinese government hates it when a minority population grows too large. Why? Because if their numbers grow, they might start rebelling, demanding independence, and become a revolutionary force. That's why they crack down so hard on places like Xinjiang and Tibet. It was the same in Egypt. A growing Jewish population was seen as a potential revolutionary force. We can't let this happen. We can't let the Jews keep having so many kids. So, Pharaoh gives an order. Every baby boy born to a Hebrew family must be thrown into the Nile River to die. Horrifying, right? And if you didn't throw your son in the Nile, Pharaoh said your entire family for 3 generations would be executed. So as heartbreaking as it was, they had no choice. There were so many Jewish mothers grieving as they threw their own children into the river. But then, a baby boy was born to one particular Jewish family. They were supposed to throw him in the Nile, but they couldn't bear it. So they placed the baby in a basket made of reeds and set it afloat on the river. They weren't just abandoning him. They were hoping that as the basket floated down the river past different villages, someone might find him and raise him, that he might just survive. And right on cue, this baby gets the ultimate main character buff. While countless other baby boys were dying in the Nile, this specific baby's basket is found by Pharaoh's daughter, the princess of Egypt. She thinks, "My father ordered all the Hebrew baby boys to be killed. This must be one of those poor babies floating down the river." She goes to her father and says, "Dad, I want to raise him. He's not a Hebrew. Okay? Deal?" Yeah, deal. So, the Egyptian princess gets her father's permission, takes the baby, and raises him. And this baby, the one with the insane main character plot armor, who is he? He's Moses. That's who. Now, what this Moses will grow up to do when he'll discover his true identity and what legendary deeds he will perform, well, that's a story for next time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like and subscribe button and leave a comment, you guys. I'll see you in the next story.